PM Panda here, 2.5 decades delivering projects, PMP certified since 2003. The mistake I'm about to show you is how budgets really die. Ever had your profit margin destroyed because your team secretly added 15 unapproved features for free? It sounds like a gift, but in the professional world, we call this a disaster in the making. Imagine your developers proudly showing off features they built over the weekend. They think they are being heroes by giving the client a bonus without charging for it. But instead of a thank you, the client is confused and your timeline is completely blown. The budget is bleeding red, and suddenly you are the one answering to the board. The absolute frustration of losing control over your project boundaries is a feeling I know too well. A team member's desire to do a favor turns into an uncontrollable expansion of work. This drains your time and resources without adding any agreed-upon business value. To fix this, you must strictly enforce your project definition and understand how constraints work. Let us get our definitions straight for your professional certification exams. Scope creep refers to the uncontrollable changes or continuous growth in a project's scope without any adjustments to time, cost, or resources. It is a slow, silent killer that turns a simple deliverable into a massive liability. If it is not documented, it should not be built. This happens when a project is not properly defined, documented, or controlled from the very beginning. Without a firm baseline, your project becomes a magnet for every random idea that pops into a stakeholder's head. What starts as a simple software update can easily evolve into a full system overhaul. By then, the original goal is buried under a mountain of extras. Every project operates under the project management triangle, also known as the Triple Constraint. This model includes scope, time, and cost. Think of it as a delicate balance where all three sides are connected. If you increase the scope without touching the budget or the deadline, something has to break. Usually, it is the quality or the team's sanity. Investing more time and cost into unapproved features provides absolutely no additional benefit to the customer. In fact, it directly breaks the carefully balanced constraints of your project. You are not being generous by adding extra work. You are guaranteeing an overrun. In my experience, undocumented additions always break the testing baseline and lead to catastrophic integration failures. In the professional world, project scope encapsulates the expected business value. The delivery of any project task should generate a result that is worth the time and resources invested. When you add extra features blindly, you violate the core principle of focusing on value. These features are not tied to the organization's strategic objectives or the approved business case. Just because a feature is technically impressive does not mean it belongs in your current project. If a task does not serve the approved business case, it is considered waste. I have seen teams celebrate being on schedule while the bank account bled out. They were busy building things that nobody actually needed to solve the primary problem. Let us look at a real-world disaster involving an electronic medical records system. We were rolling this out across 3 international hospitals with a heavily regulated core scope. The schedule was incredibly tight and the stakes were high. Everything was on track until the software development team decided to get creative with the user interface tools mid-project. The developers decided to add 15 extra visual dashboard features for free. They genuinely thought the doctors would appreciate the modern look and the new reporting functions. They did this without updating the scope document or informing the quality assurance team. It felt like a win-win situation at the time, but the underlying math was about to fail. Because these 15 features were undocumented, they were never included in the formal testing phase of the project. When the system finally went live, those unapproved features conflicted with the hospital's legacy hardware. The entire network crashed on the first day. A project that was supposed to save lives ended up paralyzing 3 major medical facilities instead. The project failed not because the original scope was flawed, but because of uncontrolled scope creep. That continuous growth destroyed the system's stability and delayed the entire hospital network. We spent months and millions of dollars fixing a problem that we created for ourselves. Never let a team member tell you that a new feature costs nothing. Here is what most people get wrong after 25 years of watching projects fail. Many managers confuse scope creep with agile flexibility. They believe that because they use an adaptive approach, developers can just add features whenever they want. That is complete nonsense. Agile welcomes change, but those changes must be formally prioritized in the product backlog. In a professional Agile environment, new ideas are reviewed, sized, and ranked against other priorities. They are never secretly added off the books by a well-meaning engineer. If it is not in the backlog, it does not exist. Anything else is just undisciplined management masquerading as flexibility. Change must always be managed, even in the most adaptive environments. Another common mistake is ignoring the hidden costs of gold plating. You might assume your team can work for free on the weekends without impacting the baseline. However, every hour spent on unapproved extras is an hour stolen from risk mitigation or quality testing. You are paying for those free features in the form of significantly increased project risk. For those preparing for professional certification exams, remember that scope management is about discipline. You must protect your project baselines to maintain alignment with the expected business value. Adding features without a change request is a violation of integrated change control. It is your job as a manager to say no to features that do not add value. To recap, scope creep is the uncontrollable growth of a project without adjusting your time or cost baselines. Adding unapproved features violates the triple constraint and destroys actual project value. You must strictly define and control your project scope to ensure every task aligns directly with the business case. If it is not in the plan, it stays out. Here is your actionable step for today. Audit your team's current work breakdown structure and explicitly ask if anyone is working on hidden tasks outside the approved scope. If this breakdown helped you, hit like so I know to make more. Subscribe if you want practitioner lessons from the trenches every single week. See you in the next one.